Wherever he went, women followed him on the streets, at the bus stop, even at church. And then, to his ultimate horror, men started joining in. It was at the mall that he encountered Guy, the infamous Lagos crossdresser who was known for his flamboyant outfits and bold personality. Guy spotted Kunle from across the room and sashayed toward him, blowing kisses. "Kunle baby," Guy purred, "give me a taste." Kunle screamed and bolted, his heart pounding like a drum. He ran out of the mall, his legs carrying him straight back to his house. Whatever was happening wasn't natural. It was a curse, he was sure of it. But how could he stop it? Kunle locked himself in his bedroom, pacing back and forth as he tried to make sense of the chaos that had become his life. Then, suddenly, Irate's voice echoed in his mind, "Your life will never be the same." He froze. This was her doing. It had to be. But how? Desperate, Kunle decided to visit Baba Tunde, a well-known herbalist in his village. Kunle wasn't the type to believe in juju or curses, but after the past 2 days, he was ready to believe anything. Baba Tunde listened quietly as Kunle narrated his ordeal. When Kunle finished, the old man nodded slowly. "You wronged someone powerful, someone with the spirit of vengeance. This curse will not leave you until you right your wrongs." Kunle swallowed hard. "What must I do?" "The woman you hurt, go to her. Beg for her forgiveness. If her heart softens and she releases you, only then will the curse be lifted." Kunle returned to Saint Obi, his mind racing. He didn't want to face Irate, but he had no choice. He found her at the same restaurant where it had all begun. She was sitting in the same corner, sipping a cup of ginger and lemon tea, her face calm and unreadable. "Irate," Kunle said, falling to his knees before her, "please, I'm sorry. Forgive me." She looked at him, her expression cold. "Is that what you came to say?" Kunle's voice cracked. "Please, I can't live like this anymore." Irate leaned forward, her eyes boring into his soul. "You broke my heart, Kunle. You treated me like dirt, and now you're paying the price. Tell me, do you deserve forgiveness?" Kunle's lips trembled. He didn't know what to say. For a long moment, silence hung between them. Then Irate sighed. "Kunle, the hostilities have just begun. Now if you don't mind, I am not a bee, but I have more spells to cast." Kunle mopped at her wide-eyed, tears hanging barely around his eyelids as Irate sauntered off. Kunle Ajayi sat in his single-room apartment, small, modest, and usually a haven. But today, it felt like a cage. The wooden door was bolted shut, the windows tightly closed. Not even a sliver of air dared to creep in. Kunle sat on his bed, drenched in sweat, clutching his Bible like it was the last weapon in a world overrun by invisible enemies. He whispered to himself, "Kunle, keep it together. You're fine. Just stay inside." He adjusted the heavy table he'd dragged in front of the door as an extra barricade. His eyes darted to the room's single window, where he'd hammered nails into the wooden frame for good measure. Nothing was getting in, not even a cockroach. Kunle sighed heavily and muttered, "It's the devil. The devil wants to finish me, but not today, not Kunle Ajayi." Just as he was trying to calm his racing heart, a loud knock shattered the silence. Knock, knock, Kunal. It was Mama Grace, their landlady, crooning his name as if she were calling out to her lost sheep. Mama Grace was 70 years old, with legs bowed from years of carrying too much weight, but her voice was sharp enough to pierce through concrete walls. This woman saw him come out from between his mother's legs when she was done giving birth to children. Kunle froze. He wouldn't dare answer. He had been trying to avoid women, all women. But Mama Grace was persistent. "Kunle, are you deaf? I said open this door." Kunle tiptoed to the corner of his room, his heart hammering in his chest. "Why is she here again?" he whispered, gripping the Bible tighter. The last time Mama Grace had cornered him in the compound, she talked about how a young, handsome man needs a good woman to cook for him. The way she fluttered her sparse eyelashes still gave him nightmares. Another knock, louder this time. Kunle. Don't make me break this door, oh. I cooked some delicious egusi soup for you. Just as a token of my love. She chuckled loudly, and Kunle's skin crawled. Token of her what? Kunle's thoughts raced. He knew he couldn't stay silent forever. If he ignored Mama Grace, she would likely summon the entire neighborhood, claiming he was either sick or dead inside. Kunle cleared his throat and responded, Mama Grace. Thank you, oh, but I'm fasting. God bless you. Mama Grace was undeterred. Fasting, ko? Kunle, fasting will not kill you. Open this door now. You need strength to pray, and my soup has plenty of meat. My knees can barely climb the stairs, and you want me to go back with this pot? God forbid. Kunle groaned silently. She wasn't going anywhere. He tiptoed to the door, careful not to make too much noise, and whispered, Mama Grace, I'm very grateful. Just leave it at the door, I will come and take it later. There was silence for a moment, and Kunle dared to hope his solution had worked. But then she said, Kunle, you think I don't know you didn't brush your teeth this morning? Come out here now, so I can see your fine face. Kunle nearly screamed. He wasn't safe in his own home anymore. God, what did I do to deserve this? As soon as Mama Grace hobbled away in defeat, Kunle's phone buzzed. He rushed to pick it up, if only to distract himself from the madness outside. It was a name he hadn't seen on his screen in years. Adunni? Adunni had been his childhood best friend, a kind-hearted girl from their neighborhood, now a nun who had devoted her life to God. Of all people, she was the last person he expected to call him. He hesitated for a moment, then pressed the green button. Hello? Kunle, her voice was calm but shaky, like she was unsure of what to say. Adunni, are you okay? She sighed, her voice dropping to a whisper. Kunle, I don't know why, but I don't think I gave enough thoughts to coming to the convent. Kunle, I need you. I need you so badly. Kunle's brows furrowed. What do you mean? Need me for what? I can't explain it, she said urgently. Something strange is happening. I have been praying for clarity, but God led me to call you. Please, come to Our Lady of Mercy convent. I feel like I'm not safe. Kunle's heartbeat quickened. A sense of dread washed over him. Not safe from what? What's going on? I can't say over the phone. Just come. Please. Before Kunle could respond, the line went dead. Kunle stared at the phone in disbelief. Adunni, a nun, was in trouble? And somehow, God had told her to call him? The same God who had placed him in the epicenter of this bizarre curse, where every woman seemed to want to drag him into the deepest pits of temptation. This can't be ordinary, Kunle muttered to himself. It's spiritual warfare. But despite his confusion and growing fear, he couldn't ignore Adunni's plea. If anyone deserved his help, it was her. Kunle threw on a clean shirt, grabbed his bicycle key, and prepared to head for the convent. But just as he opened his door, he saw the one person he least wanted to confront, his own mother. She was standing right outside, her hands pressed together in an exaggerated display of joy. Kunle, my handsome boy, she exclaimed. Kunle froze. Mummy, what are you doing here? His mother beamed like a young girl at her first school dance. If he didn't know better, he'd think she was blushing? Kunle took a step back instinctively. Mummy, is everything all right? Of course, my son, she said in a soft, dreamy voice. I just came to see you. I missed your face. Kunle's palms went slick with sweat. His mother looked at him as if he were a piece of suya roasting on a street-side grill. He stumbled backward, his voice rising in alarm. Mummy, Mummy. It's me, Kunle, your son. What's wrong with you? She reached out to touch his face, her head tilted to the side as though mesmerized. I know, Kunle. My handsome, handsome boy. Kunle screamed internally. This was not his mother. It couldn't be. He grabbed her hands before they could reach his cheek. God forbid. Mummy, stop this now. This is not normal behavior. But she just giggled, a sound Kunle never ever wanted to hear from his own mother. Kunle dropped her hands and bolted, running down the stairs 2 at a time. I'll be back when this madness ends, he yelled over his shoulder. Kunle decided there was only one safe place left apart from the convent, the house of God. He drove straight to his church, praying feverishly under his breath the entire way. He has tried juju, it didn't work. Let him try the Christian God and check something. His pastor has always boasted that with God, nothing shall be impossible. Father, Lord, deliver me from whatever spiritual attack this is. Is it village people? Is it an ancestral curse? God, have mercy. When he arrived, he dashed into the building, hoping to find his pastor for guidance. But instead, he walked straight into the middle of a scene. Sister Joy, his pastor was shouting at the top of his lungs. Holy Ghost fire! What are you doing? The congregation sat frozen in their seats, eyes darting between the pastor and his wife, Sister Joy. The matronly woman, known for her long skirts and constant scowl, was now winking boldly at Kunle. Kunle stopped in his tracks. Not again, he muttered. Sister Joy swayed slightly where she stood, giggling like a schoolgirl. Pastor, relax now. Don't you see this fine boy? Even the Bible says we should admire the works of God's hands. Kunle wanted the ground to open and swallow him. If even his pastor's wife wasn't spared, then surely he was doomed. The pastor turned on Kunle, pointing dramatically. Kunle, what did you do to my wife? Pastor, I swear I didn't do anything. Kunle threw his hands up in surrender. I don't know what's happening. Women everywhere are just acting strange around me. Pastor looked him over suspiciously, then rubbed his chin. This is not ordinary. We need to pray. I've been praying, Kunle cried. But it's getting worse. Pastor raised a hand for silence. Don't worry, my son. God will fight for you. He turned to Sister Joy, who was still eyeing Kunle like he was Sunday lunch. But first, my wife needs deliverance. Kunle couldn't take it anymore. He'd had enough embarrassment and confusion for one day. Without another word, he dashed out of the church, jumped on his bicycle, and sped off toward the convent. As he drove, Kunle realized one thing for certain: whatever this was, it wasn't natural. Some force, something dark, powerful, and beyond human understanding, was after him. And if he didn't find a way to stop it soon, it just might destroy him. For now, his only hope was Adunni. If she truly needed him, perhaps their destinies were intertwined. But one thing was clear: this was just the beginning of Kunle's nightmare, and Irati refused to let him wake from it. Kunle stumbled through the overgrown bush path leading to the small house deep in the outskirts of the village. His breathing was heavy, his heart pounding like a talking drum at a festival. The moon shone bright in the sky, casting eerie shadows on the twisting trees, but Kunle barely noticed. He had been riding and walking all day, desperate, broken, and worn out. His legs felt like they could give way, but he didn't stop until he stood in front of the small, dimly lit house. This was not an easy decision for Kunle. In fact, it was the last thing he wanted to do. But he had no choice. He had exhausted all other options: pastors, herbalists, even a visit to the prophet in the big city. None of them could undo the curse. Every door he knocked on slammed shut in his face. And now, as his last hope, he came here, to Eni Orla. Everyone in the village knew Eni Orla. Not because she could see, but because she couldn't. Her blindness wasn't from birth, though. No, it was the kind of blindness that held a story, one soaked in blood, betrayal, and pain. She was the younger sister of Ireti, the same Ireti who had cursed Kunle when his foolishness broke her heart. He had toyed with the wrong person's feelings, and now he was paying the price. When Eni Orla opened the door to her home, she didn't look at Kunle, she couldn't. But her face, calm and patient, turned slightly in his direction, as though she could sense him. Kunle, her soft voice acknowledged him. There was no surprise in it. Somehow, she knew he was coming. Eni Orla, Kunle's voice cracked like dry firewood in the Harmattan season, heavy with exhaustion and shame. I need your help. Come in, she said, quietly stepping aside to let him pass. Once inside, Eni Orla sat on a woven mat in the middle of her room. Her white, cloudy eyes stared blankly into the space where Kunle sat on a simple wooden stool.
Thank you for watching to the very end. Congratulations, you've unlocked your chance to win our prize. To enter, simply leave a comment below. 1. Start with the name of your favorite character from this story. 2. Tell us where you're watching from. 3. And share at least one lesson you've learned from this story. The comment with the most likes and replies by 4 p.m. GMT tomorrow will be our winner. Get commenting and good luck! I'll see you again on our next story. Until then, stay booky booky.